ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Tuesday, July 15th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK. That is 304-396-8255. Coming up today on the program, we're going to be speaking with Kyle Schass. He is the new play-by-play voice for Louisiana Tech. He's also going to explain to us why he thinks at least Tech is a great fit for the Sun Belt. And I talked to him earlier. He's got questions for Marshall and East Division fans. Why all the hate for Louisiana Tech? So if you can answer that question, you got the text line brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop at 304-396-TALK. Also, we're going to take your feedback on social. You can find me on X at Paul Swann. We've got baseball action coming up tonight right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. The Tri-State Coalcast opening up a two-game homestand. It's going to be Star Wars night at the ballpark. So there are going to be Star Wars characters roaming around. Also, you're invited to show up and dress as your favorite Star Wars character. Extra points if you show up dressed as a Star Trek character and tag me on social so I can see it. That's extra points for you from me if you do that. That would be funny if someone would do that. Just show up on Star Wars night dressed up as Spock or Captain Kirk, something like that. We've also got the All-Star game tonight. The game in Atlanta, going to air on our sister station, Cat Sports 93.3 and 1340. Paul Skeens for the Pirates going to be on the mound for the National League. And, of course, speaking of Major League Baseball, some good news. Herd pitcher Nick Weirich taken in the 19th round of the Major League Baseball draft by the Chicago White Sox. Overall, there were 21 Sun Belt Conference players taken by big league teams over the draft's 2 days. Also a pickup from the Orioles of Coastal Carolina catcher Caden Bodine. He was a first-round pick of the Orioles. So good news for the Sun Belt when it comes to baseball. And speaking of the Sun Belt, it's official today. We got the official word. So the league making it officially public that Louisiana Tech is going to become the 14th member of the league. Tech is going to be replacing Texas State. Texas State will be leaving after this season to join the Pac-12. So this will be Tech's second go-around in the Sun Belt. Coming up today on the program, we'll be speaking with the new voice of Louisiana Tech, Kyle Schassburger. He's the new voice taking over for Dave Nitz. We'll talk to him a little bit later on about Louisiana Tech joining the Sun Belt. He's going to explain why Tech makes a great fit for the Sun Belt. Also, when I talked to him earlier, he had a question for Marshall fans and fans in the East Division. Why all the hate for Louisiana Tech? So we'll talk to him in just a few minutes. Plus, your text at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Kyle Schassburger. He joins us on the program when we continue on this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Miss an episode? Catch it anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Our text line is now open, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. The news is official today. Louisiana Tech is going to be joining, once again, the Sun Belt. And there was a lot of hate on this side of the league, East Division, Marshall. A lot of people maybe not in love with the pick, but it's a done deal now. And to tell us more about why it is a good deal, the voice of Louisiana Tech, Kyle Schassburger. Kyle, thanks for doing it today. And that was one of the first things that we talked about. Is like, why there's so much hate for Louisiana Tech?
Oh, you got me?
Got you there. You hear me okay?
Yeah, I didn't hear the front part of your question. Yeah, why are you asking me why there is so much hate for Tech?
Yeah, that was the thing we talked about today is why is there so much hate for Louisiana Tech joining the Sun Belt? You were kind of curious on that, but I wanted you to talk about why this is a good deal, why it's a good fit for the Sun Belt, and you kind of want to know why Herd fans and maybe East Division fans not so keen on this.
Yeah, and I'm not the only one. Paul, I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm glad to be able to represent Louisiana Tech here at this moment. I come at the right time. I mean, I'm just now breaking in my new digs, being named the new voice at the start of June, moving down from North Carolina. And I can tell you from the moment I walked in and really over the last 2 months of this process, learning the history of this athletics department, what they've achieved, what they've been through, the geographic footprint that they currently exist in. I mean, how is there any better fit right now for Louisiana Tech? When you look at the Sun Belt, who has been a conference that is looking to maintain the geographic integrity, if you will, and that's kind of like going against the grain in a lot of ways from what we've seen with conference realignment and certainly the P4 leagues who are branching out in every corner of the country, but to be able to maintain that geographic footprint, which in turn is going to reignite these rivalries, reignite a fan base at the same time, where if you're a P6 school, you don't have the athletic budgets or at least the money from your TV partners to be able to do some of the things that a Big Ten or an SEC, ACC, Big 12 school are doing. You want to control those costs. So sure, you're going to save a little bit of money, but you're going to be able to play teams regularly that you have these long-term rivalries with that you don't play regularly. Louisiana, Monroe, ULM, 36 minutes away, about 30 miles, less than that, to the east of us on I-20, Paul. We haven't played them since 2000 in football. Now, they were on the schedule upcoming here in the next couple of years, but we haven't played a school that's right down the way, 30 minutes east, okay, since 2000. You got Lafayette, you got Southern Miss, the rivalry in Dixie, a team that is on our schedule this year. And yeah, I understand this is Sun Belt West focus, but that's part of the lure here for the Sun Belt in maintaining the divisional structure in the West. You got 6 other schools from Troy and South Alabama and Arkansas State and Southern Miss, and the 3 in Louisiana, all within a 7-hour radius of each other. So rivalries, the geography, and getting fans more engaged, it's a win-win.
My guest is the new voice of Louisiana Tech, Kyle Schassburger. Again, I'm going to butcher your name until I get used to it. Kyle Schassburger, he is with us now to talk a little bit more about why Louisiana Tech is a good fit. Now, you've heard some of the criticism already, Kyle, about why Louisiana Tech is not a good fit for the Sun Belt. Doesn't bring any value football-wise. Western Kentucky was just better. Where's this going to improve the television value? You've heard all those criticisms. What would you say to some of that when Louisiana Tech brings some value and a lot of sports, maybe not the sexy ones like football, but that's still a work in progress?
Yeah, my first question would be, what does Western Kentucky really bring? Is it an axe that you have to grind against Louisiana Tech because of 20 or 30 years of history where maybe you didn't have a certain level of success, or maybe the way past administrators had conducted themselves with certain decisions? That's the old guard. I mean, you got to adapt or die. And with the administration in place for Tech now, all the advancements, the resources that they have in place, I can tell you from the top down, from a creative and social standpoint, to the administrators, to the athletic director and the president, who are both aligned in Dr. Henderson and Ryan Ivey, who had come over from Stephen F. Austin, both of them starting last year. I mean, this was a decision that they had hinted at, or at least, were starting to ponder, and being able to put this university and this athletics department on the right track into the future of conference realignment, of NIL, of the transfer portal, of doing what you can here locally to play these teams around you. Western Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken, would be a little bit outside, more of an outpost of the current divisional structure of the Sun Belt Conference. But for somebody to say, too, like, hey, football history of Louisiana Tech, it's a work in progress. But do people forget that Skip Holtz had taken this program to 7 straight bowl games, won 6 straight bowl games? If it wasn't for COVID, maybe the wheels wouldn't have fallen off the way that they had, where the administration had decided to make a decision to pull the plug on Skip Holtz. Now you got Sonny Cumbia entering year 4, and yeah, he has struggled to get it going at this time. But of course, you're talking to the mouthpiece of Louisiana Tech. I'm high on the Bulldogs this year. I think their floor is 7 wins. 8 wins is certainly a potential. But that's just football. The history, they have 3 national championships going back into the 70s. They've been to 14 bowls overall, winning 8 of them, the 7 straight from Holtz. And the other sports, men's basketball, sure, they haven't been dancing since 91. I get that. But they've won 20-plus games in 11 out of the last 13 years, 11 out of 12 years, something like that. Women's basketball, do people forget the rivalries between – and sure they do. I'm here to educate you. And look, I'm a young gun myself. I've been having to dive into the history books here over the last several months to figure out what Louisiana Tech is all about. And I wasn't even aware of the history in women's basketball before I had gotten this job. The Lady Techsters were the standard. They were the flag bearers well before Tennessee and well before UConn. You're talking about 3 national championships, 13 Final Fours throughout the late 70s into the 80s and even the early 90s. But the battles between them and Old Dominion back in the day for national championship lore, Final Fours, all of that. I mean, this is some heavy, heavy stuff. Softball program's been to the Women's College World Series 3 times. Yes, all in the 1980s. But baseball, who has kind of quietly sort of become the most successful, and maybe not quietly, but most successful program here recently in their ballpark, has a lot to do with that for sure. I think the best facility for what Louisiana Tech is across the nation, hands down, compared to any school. Sure, it doesn't have the size of an SEC ballpark, but the Love Shack is as modern and top of the line, next level of ballpark as it comes. They've been to the tournament in 3 of 5 years. They hosted a regional, and the Sun Belt knows about hosting regionals, right? You just had Southern Miss, you just had Coastal host, you had Georgia Southern a couple of years host. Well, Louisiana Tech is a school that has hosted before just a couple of years ago, and they've won 3 conference titles in the last 3-4 years as well. I mean, Lane Burroughs and what this baseball program has done is incredible, and it's not going to slow down. The Lane train is going to keep rolling here into the Sun Belt, and I think taking into account baseball, certainly men's basketball, women's basketball are revenue-generating sports, if you will, and football. Along with softball, I don't think there's a better fit that was out there. What were your other options? It's not Western Kentucky. It's Louisiana Tech. It makes the most sense. And otherwise, you would have stayed at 13, which I don't see any of the merits in that. And who knows what kind of television revenue might have been restructured if you didn't.
Our guest is the new voice of Louisiana Tech, Kyle Schassburger. Kyle joins us today to educate Marshall fans and maybe anyone else that's curious why this makes a lot of sense to bring Louisiana Tech in. It hasn't been that long since Marshall was in Conference USA. I think that's the one thing that we need to remember. It hasn't been that long. In Conference USA, for all its positive, you can take away a lot from it. This is an opportunity. If it's put in front of you, you want to get out of Conference USA. And so I'm sure Louisiana Tech jumped on the opportunity quickly to do this because of the fact that Conference USA just isn't what it used to be even a few years ago. So what's the buzz you're getting from fans making this move? Let's just ignore all the negativity right now. What's the positive buzz from your fan base?
The fan base feels like, and I think even some of our administration would admit, that conference realignment passed them by once before. They missed out on the golden ticket one time already. And part of that, albeit was probably done unto it by themselves and what a former AD had said previously. But look, that is the old guard. And yeah, Conference USA at one time might have been viewed as a step above the Sun Belt, but that's not now. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There is no way to argue otherwise that the Sun Belt is not a place where you want to be when you look at all the success. And Marshall has been experiencing that the last 2-3 years, along with ODU and Southern Miss, and now James Madison also into the fold. I think all 4 of you had come in together. So, yeah, it hasn't been that long ago. But seeing how Conference USA has been kind of a feeder league to all these other schools making a transition, whether it's Delaware and Missouri State this year to Sam Houston, Jacksonville State of the past. I mean, we've had 5 new members. You throw in Kennesaw, also 5 new members in the last 2, maybe 3 years. Grant, some of those newbies came in and made an imprint immediately. I mean, Jacksonville State and Sam Houston State both competing at a high level almost immediately upon entry. However, with all the turnover and the carousel that continues to spin, Conference USA has housed like 24, 25% a full quarter of all of FBS football in Division I at one time or another. So, this isn't taboo. And to your point, Marshall, don't forget they were just there. We're just a little behind in terms of getting that invitation, but it's not a matter of dismissing when. It's the fact that, hey, we got the invite. We were chosen. We chose them as much as they chose us. Now we have a seat at the table with the top non-autonomy conference in the country that only, lags behind the SEC in bowl winning percentage in the CFP era, who has had one of the higher bowl winning percentage than anybody else, multi-bid league across 8 different sports in the NCAA tournament. Like, this is where you want to be. The money may not be all that different from a grant of rights TV revenue standpoint. And look, there's still suspicions or I guess concerns as to when exactly Louisiana Tech is going to be able to begin playing the Sun Belt. It's going to be no later than July 1st, 2027. My hunch, even being here for the amount of time that I have, is that look, you want to not burn any bridges. You want to respect the membership that you have and honor what Conference USA has provided to you for some time. But two, you don't want to exit in such a way where people can throw stones at you, throw tomatoes in your direction. And I think that is not to point any fingers, because I don't know the politics and the logistics of how exactly the realignment benefited, or at least, opened its door to Marshall, a few years ago. I don't know. I'm not there, so you can educate me. But I know there was a little bit of a sour taste in Conference USA's mouth, the way that last exit had happened with Southern Miss, Marshall, and ODU kind of happening at the 11th hour. And I can tell you that with all good intentions, whether I'm right or wrong, again, I'm pumping Tech red and blue sunshine here on your airways, but Tech is going to do everything they can to at least respect the current membership and again, alleviate any sort of angst or an anxiety from all parties here. But the fan base, Paul, and I don't even know if I've answered your question, the fan base is ecstatic. They are jacked up. They are fired up. The older generations, the newer fans, the current students, this makes the most sense because of the geographic rivalries and logistics, but two, being able to compete in a league where you are going to see annually those rivals, ULM, Lafayette, Southern Miss. People can drive to these games. We're going to play Saturday football in October. Saturday football in October? Hell yeah, sign me up.
My guest is Kyle Schassburger. He is the new voice of Louisiana Tech. So what do you know about Marshall? What's your history? What's your background when it comes to the Thundering Herd?
I believe I ran the board a couple of times I know for a fact for Steve Cotton in our Winston-Salem Audio Network headquarters. So make sure you mark the tape there. I have ran a couple of Marshall broadcasts in my time when I was running through our national office in Winston, and the Marshall Thundering Herd Sports Network comes through that building, the building that I just departed for Ruston here a couple of months, a few weeks ago, not even. Always have respected the Marshall brand. Everything that they represent in terms of championship pedigree, both at the FCS level and then the transition here to the FBS level. And yeah, they got us, almost 10 years ago, it might have been 2016, got Louisiana Tech in a Conference USA championship game. And I will mention Tech in football has not won a conference title since 2011, back when they were in the WAC in 2001. However, the Marshall story, which we don't need to relitigate, your fans and certainly your region are plenty aware. What helps a guy like me who's from Chicago really immerse and learn as much as he can about college sports. And when I'd moved to the East Coast and I started to dive more into this industry and align myself more with college athletics, it's the Marshall story of the plane crash in the 1970s, and then the movie with Matthew McConaughey that comes out, and connecting all of those dots and knowing how much that community and that town of Huntington, the structure, the DNA is Marshall football every step of the way. It is a truly passionate fan base that cares, that is authentic, that is genuine, and loves their sports and are very, very protective of their brand. And I appreciate the hell out of it. And I think part of that has kind of come through this entire process over the last 3-4 weeks since Pete Thamel dropped that text in mid-June on a Sunday night that Louisiana Tech was the front runner, with Texas State expected to take that invitation to the Pac-12. A lot of the hate that I had seen, or at least the argument, had come from Marshall fans, kind of leading the charge. So I get it. You thought you left Conference USA for to leave Louisiana Tech behind you and maybe some other schools, and now they're kind of following you. But I think that speaks to a special fandom to me. I'm not mad. I think it's a testament to how truly unique, passionate, and protective certainly your listenership truly is.
Let me ask you this then. Are Louisiana Tech fans mad because they're the ones who are going to make this rivalry work if there is to be a rivalry?
We will be mad as we need to be to provide enough banter and to do what fans do best, and that is come at each other, whether it's in the cesspool that is social media and Twitter and X, but to also be well enough when you are face-to-face or sharing a stadium or an arena or a ballpark together to have a beer, to kick back, to share stories, to talk about the merits of each other in a respectful but also fanatic way. And that's what defines fans. I think Louisiana Tech, much like Marshall, we should all be in this to pull for our team 1,000% of the way, to be as protective as we need to every step of the way. And there should be no questioning or discounting that approach. And Marshall, from what I've seen from a distance, I understand that's how they operate. From me being in this pool, in this Ruston location that I now reside, representing Louisiana Tech and meeting the amount of folks that I have in the community and understanding the politics of this this potential realignment that has now become official here today after Monday's reports. It's refreshing to know that Tech folks care as much as they do, and they have no axe to grind against East Division opponents or Marshall folks. They simply just want to spotlight them and question at least their arguments or have a conversation about it. But it's all in good fun, I think. It's all about being a fan. It's part of the shtick.
Our guest is Kyle Schassburger. He is the new voice of Louisiana Tech. For you personally, this is a job we know well in Huntington. Dave Nitz, who held that position for many years, he's a West Virginia boy. What was it like for you knowing that you were following someone who made that job like a second home? He was there for so many years, and it was so good to him. So what was that for you when you were able to follow in his footsteps and be the next voice of Louisiana Tech, knowing that this is one of those jobs where if it works out well, you could be there for a long time if you want to be?
Yeah, it's an absolute honor, Paul, and I appreciate you bringing Dave up. I've read a book that was written on Dave and released April 1st. Chris Kennedy wrote it. I've read it front to back 2 times over already. I've done everything I can to listen to past broadcasts, to talk to some of his former colleagues, fellow partners, people that have known Dave, and believe me, everybody on this campus knows Dave in some form or fashion, and most of the ones that work at this university, or at least a lot of them, have been here for a very long time. Maybe not as long as Dave, maybe as long as Dave or close to it. Everybody's got a tremendous story to share about Dave Nitz. And for me, I'm honored. I'm never going to try and be or do things the way that Dave Nitz did them. I'm going to wear my own shoes. I'm going to honor that man every day, tip of the cap to the job that he did. He set the standard, and I'm going to honor him and celebrate him every single day by my own work ethic and just loving and enjoying and developing with the craft each and every day, making the most of the relationships that I'm able to, navigate and pull together here through my time in Ruston. But the main thing is knowing I'm not Dave Nitz. Nobody else is going to be Dave Nitz. But to remember that man as best I can, to feature some of his calls as best I can, certainly throughout the football season, and to know, like, hey, we're in the Dave Nitz broadcast booth every single day. Like, Dave Nitz set the standard, and that's what made me so excited about this opportunity when I first knew it would be opening back in early March, is, hey, you need to know anything about a job. If there's anything you can tell me about a potential job opening, as I have been hunting, to become a voice of an institution, and this is sort of the pinnacle of the career, for me in my, mid-30s. If you were to tell me one thing, and it was that the guy prior to me was here 50 years, calling every sport imaginable, really, and primarily, your football, your men's basketball, and your baseball, but he did women's basketball back when the Lady Techsters began. That tells me everything I need to know. The stability, the continuity, the way the community just gravitated towards him. And the joke always was with Dave, being a West Virginia boy, growing up in Milton, West Virginia, was he couldn't get out of Ruston and get back out towards West Virginia soon enough. Well, 50 years later, he was still here. So he passed, unfortunately, a week before I started on the job. I know his health had been declining. It really is. It's a sad thing, and it's one of those things where this guy, Dave had referenced Harry Carey before, saying you're going to have to grab me out and pull me out by my feet out of this press box, and damn near it happened, with him. So just a phenomenal career, terrific legacy, and if I can just lean in and be a quarter of the man that he was, I think we'll be fine. But nobody's ever going to be what Dave Nitz was to this community and to this institution.
And the one thing that makes me smile the most is he would have probably been ecstatic that he would have been able to have a little bit more connection back to West Virginia with Louisiana Tech, getting back in a league with Marshall, because he was always happy to talk to us, especially when it came to coming back or just being a guy from Milton, West Virginia. So a tremendous story there. Our guest is Kyle Schassburger. He's the new voice of Louisiana Tech, and of course he is a friend of the program now, because so many people that I know. Of course, David Kahn, former voice of the West Virginia Power when that team was named the Power in Charleston, West Virginia, and the only guy I know could get me yelled at by the receptionist at Learfield. I don't know if that lady's still there, but Con got me yelled at by the receptionist because apparently we were too loud when he was giving me the tour.
Yeah, well, he's a loud guy. I've had to talk him. I've had to bring down his levels in a variety of aspects in life, seemingly every single day. It's just, I need you to give me half of what you're giving me, because either you're moving too fast, your brain is working at ultra like hyper speed here, or you're talking too loud. Like, calm down, inside voices, like easy boy, heel. But no, I say that all in good fun. He's a tremendous dude. He's a dear friend. We have called baseball together in the SEC down in Hoover the last 4 years or so, and we have been doing a national baseball podcast the last 4 or 5 years that he'll continue to do through Learfield, as he's still housed in that Winston-Salem office. But yeah, he'll do some fill-in work for West Virginia and has been anchoring and producing for them throughout football and men's basketball season for the Mountaineers. But he's a tremendous dude. He's I got to big brother him all the time seemingly, and it's kind of part of our shtick. But yeah, Michelle Finks still is the team mom who is working at the front desk on 540 Trade in Winston-Salem, and her son Lyle is working in the what's the farm system, Cincinnati Reds out in Dayton. He's got a job there doing some analytics, sports performance stuff. He was actually on the Wake Forest team that went to Omaha as a bullpen catcher a couple of years ago. So she means well, but yeah, she'll crack the whip on you. So I'm happy to know you felt her wrath.
Oh, it was instant. She was like just on him quickly, and I'm looking at like, hey, should we just leave? Should we absolutely leave here? And oh no, it's fine. That's David, you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Of course, I have to thank before we let you go. I have to thank my my number one friend at Learfield now. He's moved up in the ranks, so he hooked us up today. Is Colin Lacey, who is former Georgia Southern. Well, he still spreads the propaganda for Georgia Southern, but. Isn't it funny? There's so many connections. We didn't know we had so many connections until today. So I'm excited that we've got you on board and you're back in the Sunbelt family.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I really appreciate it. I'm glad he shared my info with you and I can connect with you all today. And yeah, Colin's a phenomenal dude. Worked with him with Georgia Southern, coordinating their network. He does a lot of Georgia Tech things now, but we'll still spread the propaganda for the Eagles. And now we get to see Georgia Southern more regularly. We might even have a basketball trip upcoming here this year to Georgia Southern. So might be a little Sunbelt teaser, if you will. But looking forward to meeting you whenever the time comes. If you need me to come on again and spread some of the Tech propaganda, would be happy to. And look, it's all in good fun. I'm just kind of like the innocent bystander who has just come into this, ring of fire, if you will. Like, I show up on campus and all of a sudden, things like this are happening. And I'm still trying to, get my bearings underneath me, drinking out of a fire hose. So I love the Marshall fans. I love just sitting back on social and just watching all the fans fling arrows at each other. It is entertaining. Like, get your popcorn ready. I don't understand why we got to be like so evil to each other with our keyboards. But hey, that's kind of 2025 for you. So, but I think if you get us all in a room together, both sides, I think we can all find some common ground. And I look forward to coming back up that way to Huntington rather soon, Paul.
Kyle, thanks for doing it today. Really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to get to meet you, at least through the phone, and hopefully when we do it in person, it'll be even better. But thank you today for doing this, and excited for you. And I know that we'll eventually get Louisiana Tech back in Huntington. Maybe it'll be for baseball or something like that, because after all, Marshall actually has a baseball park now, so that's a plus. Probably since
that's all that. Yeah.
Louisiana Tech fans, let them know Marshall actually has a baseball park now, so you don't have to be embarrassed.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Paul. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Kyle. We'll get your text in when we continue. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255 on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Hi, this is Dave Wilson, host of Metro News Talk Line, and you're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Thank you, Dave. Don't forget, you can catch Talk Line tomorrow, 10:06, right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Reminder, Colcats baseball coming up tonight. Colcats pretty honored last couple of days. We first found out that Logan Petit, former Tri-State Colcats catcher, was drafted by the Chicago Cubs in the 17th round. Played for the Colcats in 2024. So congratulations to him. So he is the first former Tri-State Colcat to be drafted. And then we found out today that Tri-State Colcats outfielder Bishop Quarles was named Appalachian League Player of the Week. He had a really good run. 5 games. He's only 19 right now. He was .440, 3 homers. He also drove in 13 runs. During the week, he had 11 hits at 25 at-bats. He had 4 multi-hit games. He had 9 runs scored, also had 4 stolen bases. That was a weak young man. He's only 19. So Bishop Quarles, Tri-State Colcats outfielder, Appalachian League Player of the Week, and you can catch the Colcats coming up tonight. If you can't make it to the game, and it's Star Wars tonight, so dress appropriately. If you can't make it to the game, we've got you covered. 6:45 is going to be our airtime right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We got to catch up, so we're going to take our next break, our final break, come back, and we'll open up our text line for you, and that's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255, and then open text line rest of the way on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Final segment for today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line is open and brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter says, Paul, enjoyed that interview. Great job. That was from Holmes. Appreciate it, Holmes. And, of course, when you text, if you want me to shout out where you're calling from or where you're texting from, you can include that in your text as well. So we'll do all of that. And, again, that's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I got to proof these, though. I usually don't take advantage of me, but I usually just hit them one on the run, and I'm hoping I can catch it if it's something I shouldn't be reading. But I do appreciate all the text. Yeah, that was fun. It's nice to meet someone, even though it's virtually, have a few connections with, but it's great to have someone that we can talk to from the different teams that Marshall will face. And it's always fascinating for me and more interesting, honestly, just to hear what they have to say about their program than sometimes me tell you what I think about their program. He's the voice of Louisiana Tech, and of course he's going to have that filter, but still, it seems like Louisiana Tech is excited to be in the league, and that's not a bad thing. It might not be the sexy pick for some Marshall fans. It's not Western Kentucky. It's not Ohio. I get that. But at least from the fan base point of view, it's excited to be in the Sun Belt. And let's be honest, getting out of Conference USA was probably the best thing that's happened for Marshall in a long time. I think Conference USA became a lesser version of itself as the league continued because it was cherry-picked so hard. The American, the big culprit of that. At the same time, when Marshall was contemplating getting into Conference USA, there were other teams there that made it really exciting, like Cincinnati, Louisville. Those were teams that were Conference USA. And of course, this league is completely different now. And Sunbelt, I think, for the most part, works. Not too many complaints as far as the geography of the opponents are concerned. East Division's great. I like the East Division. I wouldn't trade it right now because I like all the matchups. The 2 Georgia schools, happy with that. Coastal, Appalachian State, JMU. That's a great mix. Old Dominion coming over with Marshall from Conference USA. Always a good matchup there. And, of course, some of the West Division teams. How can you hate playing against Southern Miss? Well, okay. How can you not enjoy hating playing Southern Miss? You get where I'm going with that. And, of course, don't forget, Louisiana, Marshall already has a sort of a nice little rivalry going on there. and that's been a great opponent. So there's nothing truly negative I can say about most of the opponents for Marshall in the Sun Belt. You want to get after everyone, obviously, but at the end of the day, I don't have really an issue with any of the other programs. Troy, there's some history there as well. South Alabama, you're getting still a few years in. When we get 15 years into this thing, we'll see how it shapes out, but it looks pretty good right now. 304-396-TALK, always 304-396-8255. That's our text line to be a part of today's show here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Don't forget, it's Cold Cats baseball tonight, 6:45. The Cold Cats opening up a homestand against the Bluefield Ridge Runners at Jack Cook Field. Tonight is Star Wars night. Dress up as your favorite Star Wars character to go to the game. You can be a Jedi, you can be a Stormtrooper, you can be Darth Vader, you can be Mr. Spock for all I care. And I think that would be funny. And again, if you're going to, if you're that person that dresses up for things like this, you can dress up as a Star Trek character and go to this game. Tag me on social, at Paul Swann. Tag me. I want to see it. I will share it. I will think that is the best thing going today. That will be hilarious. Of course, tomorrow is going to be Gilligan's Island night. How many of you remember Gilligan's Island? How many of you watched Gilligan's Island in reruns? Because I know most of you didn't watch it when it was first out. Gilligan's Island's been around a long time. Of course, my favorite Gilligan Island movie was when the Gilligan Island's castaways had the resort on the island, and they had the Harlem Globetrotters on the island with them, and they staged a basketball game. That was my favorite because it was absurd. I'm not even going to describe. Look it up. I'm not going to describe that one to you. That's absurd. And if you want me to get into TV and movie reviews, we'll talk about that. We can do that anytime. So that's going to do it for this edition. I want to thank our guest, the new voice of Louisiana Tech, Kyle Schassburger. He will be taking over for Dave Nitt, so lucky to have him join us today. Tell us more about the move into the Sun Belt. I'll be back with you tomorrow here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Have a great night, everyone. Broadcasting from the Dave & Buster's studios. Eat, drink, play, and watch at Dave & Buster's in the Huntington Mall. ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. WRBC, W231BS Huntington.